A little bit ago, I made a trip to Florida. And in this video, I'm going to be making a terrarium based off of Florida's appearance. So make sure to stick around to see the finished results. First, I looked for a place to set everything up. I thought this area looked okay. Then I realized I set up right next to an ant nest. Oh well. I'm now gonna get right into making the terrarium. I started with the substrate. I'll put my mix on screen. Dirt from the wild probably won't work, because it has to be able to retain moisture, hold nutrients, and resist compaction. I began adding a generous amount of substrate so the plants that will grow inside can root. The problem was that some of the substrate was falling out. Even though it's slower, I decided to use tweezers. You may be wondering why I didn't add a drainage layer. And that's because the jar is under 200 milliliters, and it'll be difficult to overwater it. If you do this, just make sure not to overwater it or it can kill your terrarium. I started sloping the substrate up to the back for a sense of scale and depth. I then gave it a small spray down so that the substrate stays in place. I then wiped water and debris off the glass so we can see in there. I think it's now time for the hardscape. I found some cool sticks, rocks, and different botanicals. I placed it in so that it looks like some type of tree shooting out of the ground. I'm gonna use pieces of this cool rock to put into the terrarium. But first I gotta smash it up. It didn't really seem like it was working, so I went to a harder surface to smash it on. Now it works perfectly. Now that the basic hardscape was finished, I decided that it was time to add moss. Thankfully, ripping the moss like this won't kill the moss, so it'll be easier to put it into the terrarium. The way to put moss into a terrarium is by gently pressing it down into the substrate. And with this, it should root in no time. I found this beautiful bright green moss underneath a fern. I'm not too good at identifying moss species, but if there's anybody that can identify these species in the comments, that would be great. I thought it would be cool to add a sand path, because Florida has so many beaches. But I realized I couldn't pick up the sand with my tweezers. So with a bit of ingenuity, I used an acorn cap to hold the sand in. And surprisingly, it worked. I thought the terrarium was coming together really well. I decided to add a seashell to look even more like a beach environment. And the last thing I did for the hardscape was put rocks around the sand. I think it makes it look much more natural. I figured that the shell took up too much space, so I took it out. For the last plant, I decided to use an aquatic plant. I think these are Java fern sprouts. Java ferns are epiphytes, so they grow in the cracks of rocks and things. I've never grown aquatic plants in a terrarium environment before, so this is an experiment. Hopefully it works out. The last thing I did was give the ecosystem a heavy spray down. I put the cork lid on, and the ecosystem was complete. The reason why I didn't add the springtails was because I wasn't able to bring them with me to Florida. But don't worry, I'll add them when I get home. If you liked this video, make sure to subscribe and put notifications on so you don't miss another one. Or you can just watch this other video or go to my channel.